overtraining is a really serious thing for people who exercise every day. I had a couple friends over 2 months ago. They're both about my age, and they have much bigger shoulders than I do. That's probably because I had a tear in my shoulder that just rehab, so I can put it back on. But they also have big pot belly. Never worked out this hard to be this fat. Like we're going to the gym 5 times a week, hitting it hard, and we're maxing things out. And it's called overtraining, dude. You have a cortisol belly, and your testosterone's in the shitter because everyone's testosterone is low, men and women, because of microplastics and all the other stuff. So get on thyroid if you need it, which most people do. Get on testosterone, which most people need, and then work out every 3 days. And the other day, go to yoga class or go for a walk and watch your gut disappear. I started one of the earliest red light therapy companies called TrueLight. It's about 11 years old now.
Oh, yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this. How many companies do you have? Let's just start with that now.
I think 9.
No, you have 9 companies
Yeah.
now. So you have a red light company, you have a light company.
Actually, I just sold that off to a friend who's running it now. So TrueLight's, I'm still a shareholder, but I just a shareholder. I don't operate that one. I have TrueDark, these circadian glasses. It's really cool. Andrew Huberman, who was on my show before he had a show,
Right.
and has done incredibly well and is a great teacher. He just started talking about red light. I'm like, great, TrueDark. We actually filed patents on the specific types of tints to cause people to go to sleep faster. And we published a study in a medical journal on shifts in brainwaves from our specific tint. So TrueDark is one of my companies.
Yeah.
Then we've got Upgrade Labs, which is the franchise company that has the AI exercise and recovery.
Yeah.
30 locations signed, and people can go to ownandupgradelabs.com and you can work with me on it, like open a biohacking franchise in your neighborhood.
So how many are actually open?
We have 9 are open.
9 right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go on. Upgrade, TrueLight.
We've got Danger Coffee, which is doing great. It wouldn't surprise me if someday we surpass the coffee sales from Bulletproof.
Really?
What?
Are you guys really doing that well right now? Like
We're not doing that well right now.
No, but your trajectory.
Well, I know my entrepreneurship. I know
beyond.
Yeah, and
But you know you're really good.
yeah.
You're the best salesperson I've ever met in my life.
Wow, thank you.
You are. You know why? You're a great orator. You know, you can take information and you can really like explain it in such a way that people get so hooked in. Like even when, because you speak with such, not just like passion about it, but like detail. Like you're so detail oriented. Like you don't just glaze over it. So people really like, you're explaining things where people are like, I want to try it.
You know where that comes from? I taught for 5 years
amazing.
at University of California every night or not every night, 3 nights a week for 5 years. I taught to learn how to teach and learn how to do public speaking. And
They're great at it.
thank you. The other thing though is I do not sell, I teach. And
That's it.
I'm only going to tell you about it if I think it might be helpful for you. And I don't want you to buy any of my stuff unless it's going to be more than worth it for you. And I genuinely mean that. And I have turned down huge amounts of money for doing things that were out of integrity. One investor once offered me a $75 million bribe. And I said, no.
Serious?
Would have screwed my existing investors. I don't do that. Literally $75 million in stock options for selling equity. You can guess which company, I'm not going to say it. For selling equity to him at a much lower valuation than it was actually worth.
Really?
It's one of the reasons that things went a little bit sideways.
Because it's interesting, because if I can be honest with you for a second, I think a lot of people, because you talk about a lot of products all the time on social media, people feel like you kind of like sell out a little bit, right? Because like you're
People are
talking
gonna-
about this random thing and that random thing, and it's like, well, if he's getting paid, he'll talk about it.
I have a giant trash can in my house for things people send me that are not worthy.
Yeah.
So what I do is I only talk about things that work. The world of biohacking has gone from an idea while I'm walking around a mountain in Tibet to a new word in the English language in 2016 to a $20 billion industry, according to industry analysts,
Right.
in 11 years. I run a conference with more than 100 vendors of the coolest stuff, and I vet
Exactly.
every single one of them myself. And people are like, oh, Dave talks about stuff that works. I'm like, if you don't like it, then don't listen. But my job is to tell you this is possible. This is how it works. This is what it is. And if you have that problem, you probably should try this. or if you have that goal.
It's volume
Yeah.
also, right? Like
Yeah.
you get so much volume sent to you, and you try so much more than the average person that you just have more opinion on
Yeah.
more things that are in front of your face,
And,
basically.
I talk about the hard stuff. Like I went public, guys, because I was fat. I had a huge amount of skin taken off my face. You call it a facelift if you want. It was like 4 facelifts in one, if you're going to call it that. But I could have hidden that. And sometimes, like I talk about one technology, it would be easier to not talk about it. This is something with 36 studies behind it, but it relies on a quantum effect that I can't quite understand, but it works.
What is it?
It's called Leela, and they do things for EMF mitigation. And I've done shamanic training. I can do energy work. Like half of my work is on consciousness stuff, right? Like the 40 years of Zen things and
what is that, by the way? So you did finish the company. So you have you got 4 more to go.
We'll finish that. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
No.
But just so the Leela quantum thing, it works in study after study after study. But I don't like the idea that a little pendant or a service is going to change blood flow dynamics in the body. But it appears to work, and it appears to work personally and in studies. So I'll talk about it. And people are like, Dave isn't scientific. Like, the role of science is to find things that work, even if we don't know why, and then to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I will talk about it. And I'm done. Joe Rogan tried to cancel me. I just don't care.
Yeah, you have to just do your own thing and stay in your lane. People like who like, not everyone's going to love you, not everyone, but
That's not what I'm here for.
That's not what you're here for. But I want to hear the other companies.
Other companies. So we got 40 years of Zen.
Okay.
And for 10 years, I have been teaching entrepreneurs and celebrities and people like that 5-day intensive program to have the same brainwaves as someone who's meditated for decades, like a Zen monk. And it's a quantitative state. People come to Seattle, where our facility is, and glue electrodes to their head, and we teach them a very specific technique that originated from my work all over the world with these lineages. And it lets you turn off triggers permanently. And one of my friends, Craig, went through, it was a 1,200 person company. He came out and goes, oh my God, all my success as an entrepreneur is because I was bullied in 12th grade. In 7th grade, I'm still getting even. And so I've had very successful people come through, and I've done 6 months of my own life. The reason I can do 9 companies and write the things and just stay present is because I went through and I figured out that probably 75% of my mental capacity was on old alerts from childhood going off. And you can turn this off. So I'm like, how do I scale this? Heavily meditated in your book. I teach the process that entrepreneurs spend $16,000 on for everyone. And it is a structured meditation. It works better with EEG, measuring your brain waves. And when you do that, the things that push your buttons the most, they go away. It's not that you just become aware of them. They stop pushing buttons. And I'll give you an example. And this is in the book too. When Bulletproof was coming up, I went on the Joe Rogan show. And it really helped. The coffee changes life. It's very complimentary, and we talked about it quite a lot. I was complimented, grateful. Came back on, same thing. Then one of his buddies, where he has equity in the company, decides to copy the Bulletproof product set. And then after that, it was all of a sudden, Dave's a bad man selling snake oil. And my social media went from like, thank you for helping me lose all the weight and just good stuff, to like, you're a bad person. And it really shook me. What is going on? And I hired like a crisis PR firm, and no one knew what to do. And I'm like, ah. And finally, one of the guys on my team, who was a convoy commander, kind of understands fear response. He's like, Dave, you're acting weird. You gotta get this. So I sat down and did the reset process, this idea of like internal inquiry. And it turns out I had an unresolved trauma from first grade that I completely forgotten about, that I didn't know anything about, that was driving my emotional state. So I told the teacher that one of the kids was doing something he shouldn't have done. And then the teacher asked the kid, he goes, I didn't do it, Dave did it. And I got sent to the principal's office for doing that. That is injustice. And it really pissed me off, apparently, and it stuck. So the 2 traumas that entrepreneurs face the most that ruins their businesses are injustice and betrayal. Most entrepreneurs, like 90% of people, when I'm teaching a classroom full of entrepreneurs, I run the Business of Biohacking conference. So how many people have had people embezzle? 90% of people. This is betrayal. It hurts. I did the right thing by my employees and they fucking stole my money. And it hurts until you do the work and you realize that it doesn't have to. Okay, it happened. Right. And there's a different energetic. And then the injustice thing. I did the right thing. I expected the other person to do the right thing. They didn't. Those two things will take you off your game. They will waste your energy. They'll ruin your marriage. They'll ruin your company. And they'll ruin your leadership. So the higher up you go in power, in wealth, or in fame, the more likely you are to attract narcissists and sociopaths, like moths to a flame. And you better become a Jedi master at both spotting them and not being triggered by this type of person.
Why is that though? You're right. The higher, more successful you become, you do end up that does happen. You end up like gravitating to those type of personalities more.
It's more that they're gravitated to you. Like that? Better?
Lean towards it.
How's that?
Better. Thank you.
Sure. There's something in Buddhism called the hungry ghost realm of hell. And they draw it with a bunch of people with distended bellies, like they're starving,
Mm-hmm.
and they're surrounded by food. But no matter how much they eat, they're always hungry. And when people have the trauma that causes narcissism, by the way, this is all in heavily meditated. It's
Yeah.
some of the most important things I've ever learned. They're stuck in this, I am not enough. I do not have enough. I have to get it from other people. And it expresses as jealousy and envy. And they want to take it from you because they deserve it. And anyone who points that out has to be destroyed. And this is why if you let someone like that into your organization, or even worse, into your bedroom, then like everything starts to break because they have a false reality. They believe their own bullshit. So I teach that there's 4 kinds of people in heavily meditated, and you can categorize them based on, are they
What are they?
Well, this comes from Lao Tzu's work. It's like the Buddha of China. And my friend Barry Morguelan, who's one of 9 living grandmasters, taught me this. And category 1, these are win-win people. When they win, the other party wins. Maybe not the same amount, but they help others help them. And like they're very high integrity on that. 5% of people. It's a standard curve. Then you have category 2 people. They're win-win most of the time, but they screw up. They have blind spots. But when you tell them you screwed up, they go, oh man, I'm so sorry. How do I make it right? They evolve, they learn, they grow, they take feedback. Those are the only kind of people I will allow.
How much percentage of people have that or that?
I'm going to guess today it's probably 50 or 60.
Okay.
But some of them are not very good at that.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So you want people who make less mistakes, but you always want people who are willing to own their mistakes. So these are evolving people. Then you have category 3 people. They're win-lose and they don't know it. So for them to win, someone else has to lose. And this is the kind of person, you can have video of them murdering a room full of people. It's a locked door. They're holding the knife covered in blood. And you walk in and go, you kill these people. And they go, I couldn't have killed all these people. I'm a good person. And they believe what they're saying on a lie detector test. Reality does not matter to them. And so if you threaten their false reality, they'll start spreading lies and rumors and undermining, and they destroy companies all the time. And when I coach entrepreneurs, every one of them, like, who creates the most drama in your company? They all know who it is and they don't fire them right now. I made that mistake multiple times. And then category 4 people, they're win-lose, and they know it. They're sociopaths and psychopaths, and they're the most toxic. You can't spot them because they're expert manipulators. 5%. 5% amazing, 5%, oh my God. The problem is, I think with social media, we have more and more narcissists type. And so it's our job to curate our community and our companies to become aware of that. And if you have some of those tendencies, not everyone with some narcissistic tendencies is a narcissist. Like to be an executive in business, where you have to have some narcissistic tendencies, it's not a bad thing. It's that you're conscious of them. It's when you're unconscious of them that it's an issue. So understanding this, it creates so much peace for people because that's what happened. I became more successful. So the people who are like, I don't have enough, I need it, they're like zombies drawn to you because you made a noise in The Walking Dead. So you've got to have good filters in place. And one of those is not having blind spots because you have triggers, because you have old traumas. And that's why I've been able to do what I do. But I've taken a lot of hits along the way.
A lot.
I had one executive I hired, perfect pedigree. And my plan that year was to lose, it was $4 million and to grow by 40%. And I just raised $30 million. And that's a great growth rate. So every month, every week, yes, we're on track. Yes, we're on track. December 1st, we might lose 5 million, not 4 million. That's kind of a miss, but okay. December 31st, oopsie, I lost 28 million.
Wow.
And I'm like, did you really burn through 3 years of venture capital and every single week look at me and the board and tell us that it wasn't happening? I don't know what happened. I don't fail. This is literally a conversation. I don't fail. Do I know what could happen? I'm like, you were top of your class at Harvard. You had the spreadsheets, like you. And this, when we let her go, she looked at me and she said, "You should give me more stock options."
Really?
And I said, "Why?" She didn't have a reason, but because she's good. She deserved. And she ghosted me after that, never spoke again. And when she interviews for jobs, she says I wasn't at the company when she was there. And I think she believes that.
Are you serious?
100% serious. I know, because people she's interviewed with who are friends will call me and go, "Did you know this?" I'm like, it's okay. This is how people are when they're doing their thing, right? And this kind of thing happens. And so this is one reason you check references. And this is why, get my voice back.
Want some water?
I'm just, this is why, like, you check references and you check them and you check them, because if you're a good reader of people, if a person believes their own lies, you won't spot it. You can't. So these are some big lessons that I've learned. And I would not have been able to weather being fired from my own company. I consciously uncoupled, had a very copacetic divorce. I moved countries. I had another employee embezzle some money. Just one thing after another. And I handled all of that in a way that I don't think I could have done had I not done all this deep personal work, the spiritual journeys, just alongside the becoming physically well, rewriting my response to stress, threats, and 40 years of Zen is behind that. And it's helped so many entrepreneurs just be able to not lose their mind in a board meeting. One of the things that we recognize is congruency. So we've all been in a meeting with someone and we know they're pissed off. They're like, I'm not pissed off. Right. And, and then they're acting, their inner state's like, I'll kill you. And their outer state's like, thank you for your time. So at least we're behaving. We're not like going into savagery, which is what would happen if we didn't behave.
Right.
But it's very different.
But it's fake.
It's fake and we know it. But
Mhm.
it's very different from that same situation. If someone's acting out and you're the leader in the company and you notice the acting out and it doesn't move your nervous system even a little bit and you're just aware of it, and you can look at them and you can say, are we done?
Right.
You're
right,
not
right,
bad.
Right. Right.
And they're like, oh
react.
shit, my acting out didn't do anything. I don't have any power from misbehaving. Right. And so it turns out the lower someone is in category 2, the more narcissistic or the more sociopathic they are, the more they feed off triggering you. If you cannot be triggered,
Right,
you
you
are not narcissist food. That's why this book is so important.
I understand what you mean. I see the full circle there.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but like that 40 years of Zen though, that sounds like a really good program for a lot of people. I'd like to try that myself.
Come on up. It takes 5 days. It's intense. And about a year ago, we partnered with a medical provider who comes in and can layer ketamine therapy on top of it. So it's the world's first psychedelic assisted neurofeedback program.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. And it's how do you rewire your brain so that you make better decisions? You're more conscious and more present. Oh, and get this. In April, I think April 12th in Austin, we're doing a Biohacking and Consciousness Day where I'm bringing in Victor Chan, who writes the Dalai Lama's books, and several other leaders in consciousness and meditation. We're doing a day of biohacking and consciousness.
Wait, I just was invited to a biohacking conference in April in Austin.
Oh, that's probably one of those who's trying to copy mine.
Yeah, it's not yours.
Mine's Let's see. Mine is May 28th. This is the first.
Oh yeah, different. This
Yeah,
is a guy from England.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, do you know which one I'm talking about?
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I used on that conference before he violated every line of the contract with me.
What do you mean you
I
own that
launched
conference?
my team launched that conference for him. He violated every line of the contract. So I sent him an Instagram with the letter. Gave him something back. He moved to Austin because I lived there. At least that's what he told people.
Because he was
okay.
doing it in England.
Oh yeah. No, they know I live in it.
So you mean it's not your conference, but you owned a piece of that conference?
I did. I launched the conference for him. Yeah, we were business partners. And then he violated like every line of this crazy email. It's funny in the email, he's like, yeah, I did all those things, but it's your fault. Yeah, I know this pattern, category 3. So I stepped away from that. But yeah, it's an awesome thing. And I'm not saying that because I believe it. I'm saying that because he told 3 people who are friends that. And I'm okay with it. Like, all right, you guys like try it. We'll see what happens.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
By the way, if you go to biohackingconference.com, we'll have 4,000 people, 100 plus vendors. Joe Dispenza's on stage.
When is that one? May 20?
May 28th.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
biohackingconference.com. We've got Joe. We've got James Nestor from Breath.
Oh yeah, I love
He's a
him.
great guy. So good.
That's a great one. Oh, I
Yeah.
want to go to that one.
This is the thing that launched it. There's actually like 8 conferences around the world around the biohacking movement. It's a global thing. So I'm partnering with some conferences overseas to do
That makes sense
just
to
to
me.
work with them. Like it's not like I own biohacking. I started this and I did not trademark it because I want it to be a societal movement. I'm just the founder and leader of it. So
Because there's so many biohacking conferences.
Yeah.
There's so many.
yeah,
And so, but yours, when is, because I know you have a big one in LA all the time, but that's,
we moved it from LA.
oh, so it's not here anymore. So now that's the one that's like
Yep.
you're saying in Austin in
It's
May 28th.
annual, May 28th. It's 3 days and it's a big deal. It feels like CES now. It's such high production.
It's big.
Yeah. 4,000 people. We're filling up the Fairmont and overflowing.
I'm telling you, like the amount of stuff that, okay, so how are I didn't even, I feel like we didn't even get over your day in the life, your
Oh, yeah.
habits and hustle. Okay. What time do you wake up? Give me your whole situation.
The earlier you go to bed, the better off you are.
What time do you go to bed at night?
Well, I go to bed around 10:30.
Okay.
most
It's
of
not
the time.
crazy.
Not crazy. For all of my life until I was about 40, I went to bed at 2 a.m. I've been a night owl and I couldn't go to bed earlier. And I fixed it by hacking my circadian biology. The reason I started TrueDark. The red glasses, if you wear those, not just any red, this is for optical filter, but the TrueDark glasses for sleep. If you wear those every night for 2 hours before bed, you can shift your circadian window. I don't get jet lag anywhere on the planet when I use the color of light properly. So I fixed my sleep. I go to bed like a normal person now for the first time in my entire life. So I go to 10:30.
Wow. Okay.
If I do go to bed, then I'm going to wake up around 7 hours later.
Okay.
I get 6.5 hours of sleep on average per night. I just don't need more than that. And I don't want more than that. And I'll wake up without an alarm. The people who live the longest get 6.5 hours of sleep a night, not 8 hours a night.
Really?
Study of 3 million people over 3 years. All-cause mortality is lowest at 6.5 hours a night
Why?
because healthy people need less sleep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's
It's-
so
It's
interesting. Yeah.
probably different for men and women. On average, women do need more than men. And that's a real thing. But the data in that study was.
That is so interesting.
And there's 2 other studies, large-scale studies, besides the first one that say the same thing. So the idea of 8 hours a night is
Where did it come from?
that study, they collected data in the 80s. It was a very large amount of data. It was so much data that no one could process it. And someone dusted it off sometime in the early 2000s and ran it through proper computers. Like, oh my God, look at all this. And since then, it's been confirmed twice. So
Interesting.
if you wake up and you feel rested and good to go and your heart rate variability is there and you only got 7 hours of sleep, good for you. Regularly, like tens of thousands of people have reached out over the years saying, damn, I went on the Bulletproof Diet. I started biohacking. I need an hour less sleep. Is that normal? I'm like, yeah, welcome to being healthy.
That's amazing. Do you wear mouth tape? Do you wear like a weighted eye mask? What is your?
I put a bite guard in. This is critically important if you're going to live a long time. As you age, your molars wear down and it changes the angle of your jaw, which screws up your whole nervous system. Those were my first 10 podcasts 14 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
It screws up your nervous system if
Yeah.
you don't wear a mouth guard?
Yeah, because if the angle of your jaw changes, it changes the pressure in your trigeminal
Yeah.
nerve, which is right next to the vagus nerve. So the inflammatory cytokines from the trigeminal go to the vagal nerve, which controls rest and digest and fight or flight. And if you want to live a long time, maintain the height of your molars, and you do that by wearing a bite guard at night. I had to, like James Nestor did, speaking at the conference, I had to expand my upper palate, bring my lower jaw down, forward, and raise the height of my molars for my nervous system to work right. Because we have malnutrition of mothers, in large part from all the grains and all the other things. A lot of kids are born with a crowded palate and teeth that don't fit, so your nervous system will never work right until you fix it. That was a big shift for me.
So you wear like a mouth guard?
I wear a mouth guard and I tape my mouth. I've been doing that for 6-7 years.
Okay.
Even my teenage daughter, she's on me, can I try it? And after 3 days, she goes, I'm doing this every night. I don't have bad breath in the morning. I don't have dry mouth. I sleep better. So it's really just a little piece of tape right here. I do that.
Oh, so you don't wear the one that goes this, like you wear it this way?
I usually wear it this way because then if you need to breathe through the side of your mouth, you can. You just want to make it so that when you're asleep, your mouth is held closed. And the difference in outcomes for sleep and brain health is it's profound. All right. What else?
That's the night stuff here. What?
Oh, there's more nice stuff.
There is? Okay, give me a few more night stuff. I want to know like all the habits.
My bed is electrically grounded, so I drop the static charge that builds up during the day. I wear the TrueDark glasses for sleep about an hour before bed, or when I'm home. My entire house has dim red lighting that I turn on at night, so it looks like a submarine or a house of repute. And
Really?
this is the coolest thing. My girlfriend been doing this stuff, and we walked through LAX 2 nights ago because we went at 10 o'clock, and she was wearing her TrueDark glasses too, and I didn't make her do it. She said, you feel so much better when you have darkness at night. It's unbelievable. So yeah, I go to a hotel room, I turn off a little red light, and I turn off all the bright lights, and I turn on my red light, and then I have an environment where my body knows it's nighttime. I should go to sleep. So light's important. Electrical grounding is important. I do a handful of stuff like supplements before I go to sleep.
What supplements are you taking at night?
I take like 40 of them.
At night?
Yeah.
Besides magnesium?
Yeah, I take magnesium. I take a sleep formula with a bunch of herbs in it. Lately, I've had some GABA I'm playing around with. I just go through. I have some stuff that increases activity in parts of the brain, some stuff that affects glial cells and neurons. I do lion's mane because it improves dreaming. I have to go look at that whole spreadsheet of all this stuff, but it's a handful.
Every night.
Oh,
Okay.
and there's also nighttime is a great time to absorb minerals. So one of the fundamental things for human performance and longevity is minerals. So I take minerals 101, which is one of the formulas I make. It's a nighttime thing. And then you have enough minerals in order to go through the entire night. And just you can't fold proteins if you don't have the ingredients to make the enzymes that do it.
Do you take NAD, like True Niagen, or?
I do. I have been using NAD precursors for 15 years now since the first studies came out. And I take a variety of them. I've used True Niagen, I've had on the show. I have used the Qualia formula and several others. And as we learn more about NAD, it's becoming really clear when you take NAD, you have to block a cell called CD38. So I do that as well. There's a variety of things like green tea extract that will do that.
Why do you have to block that?
Your CD38 cells consume between 20 and 26 times more NAD than actually it's an enzyme of the cell. So CD38 enzyme absorbs that. And what that means is for the first 6 weeks after you take an NAD precursor, you get a lot of energy because your mitochondria use it. But then CD38 starts to soak it up. You get more and more CD38, which is so you have to block CD38 from stealing your NAD. And you can do that with other supplements or with formulas that have it built in. I just did a whole podcast on this. Probably up there now. So the thing is,
On NAD or just what's the podcast
it was
called?
on NAD.
Yeah. God, you're like an encyclopedia. How do you remember all of this stuff? That's the thing. Like,
Okay. This is going to be a fascinating thing about memory. And I will tell you, give me 2 seconds. I'll tell you what this episode was because I recorded it last week. It was Okay, I'm not going to spend the time to find it. I'll figure it out.
Just everyone look for I'll just say, check out the NAD episode. Okay,
Yeah,
that's good
it's
enough
on
for
it's
now.
on the human upgrade.
Human upgrade. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and I've done 4 or 5 with different scientists on it. It's a fascinating topic. So here's how I remember things. I have studied memory and cognitive function and anti-cognitive cancers and all that kind of stuff. And there's 2 kinds of memory. There's memory about how things work, like semantic memory, and then there's episodic memory, which is when things happen. And you can train your brain to do different things. I do not know a day of the week it is right now. I don't care. I have almost no episodic memory because it's irrelevant. I have the before time. If I need to know, I can look it up. That's why I don't
Yeah.
know, earlier. And if you ask me what I'm doing tomorrow, I have very, very vague understanding. I just don't care because I have built my life. I've built my systems. I have my EA. My time is managed. All of my brain is about understanding systems. And that's partly because I trained it that way.
Yeah.
And partly because I used to have Asperger's syndrome when I was.
Used to?
Yeah.
Not anymore?
You can resolve Asperger's. You maintain the pattern matching abilities, but you lose the downside of it. I had to retrain how my eyes see, how my tongue moves, how my ears hear, and how my body moves. Still working on some functional movement. And I had to retrain my brain to recognize things like faces. It was a lot of work, most of my 30s.
How? How did you train?
I mean,
I guess it's
it's
like
like a whole hour
I-
episode.
I know. I mean, like, you don't have to tell me, but I mean,
So-
can you say it in like
I'll-
3 sentences?
Yeah, I'll explain the why, which will, I think, be the answer to your question. If you have autism or Asperger's, part of the autism thing, some people don't like the name Asperger's. I don't like whatever their name is either. Sorry, guys.
Hilarious.
I
Okay.
identify as being triggered right now.
Yeah.
So-
I love it. Okay.
When you have autism like that, there's 2 things going on. 1, your mitochondria don't make enough energy. And 2, your nerves, your sensory input, they have static on them. So when you're a little baby, you're trying to make sense of the world. Like, is that light important or not important? Is that vibration, that sound important or not important? And you're like a little large language model, trying to figure out what's good, what's not. But when you don't have enough power for your central processor, which is the mitochondrial problem, and there's static on everything, the brain becomes hyper efficient, but it ignores a huge amount of the data because it can't sort it out from the chaos, from all the static. So there's static in your eyes. I didn't have peripheral vision. I did not know how to see peripherally until I was in my 30s, and I worked with a developmental ophthalmologist. And I just did an episode with Bryce Applebaum on vision training. And I learned how to see in my peripheral vision because my brain's like, I don't need that data to live. So I was seeing in tunnel vision and I didn't know it. Right. And my left eye was turned off half the time because it was too much work for my brain to make him go. So the brain will make these incredible sacrifices on your perception of the world just to make sure it can function.
So you could turn your eye, you turned your eye back on?
Yeah.
I mean, I could sit with you for 3 weeks and have more questions.
I'm
so sorry.
It's okay. Here's the basis though. If you can turn the power back on, which is fixing your mitochondria, which is fundamental to the whole biohacking
Yeah.
movement, all of a sudden, wow, now I have a hyper efficient software code and my operating system is meant for low power, but I have tons of power. So now I can really do things that really would be hard to do otherwise. Problem is I don't have a good signal. So then you have to teach the brain how to clean the visual signal, how to clean the auditory signal. And that had to do with figuring out where the little gaps in my hearing was where it didn't match, and then doing uncomfortable hearing exercises that trained my brain to fill in the gaps in my hearing. And then my tongue was glued to the floor of my mouth. I had to have the surgery for that and do a bunch of tongue rehab, which affects your fascia and your whole movement. And I had to, like I said, spread out my palate and move my jaw forwards so my nervous system would work. And then I had to learn how to crawl because I never learned how to crawl as a kid because I was reading in 18 months. Like this stuff, most people are never going to do this, but if you want to, you can take a brain that is not neurotypical and you can maintain the gift and you can recover from the downsides. For me in 7th grade, I knew the names of 2 people in my class the school year because I couldn't recognize their faces
Are you
because
serious?
people are face blind.
Can you now see faces perfectly?
Pretty well. I wouldn't say no one's perfect.
No,
I think
but
everyone has a little bit of a thing about it. But I actually recognize people. I
did
would
you
say
recognize me?
I recognize you, and yeah, when I came in, yeah. But if you walked up to me, like on the street at Erewhon,
You would never recognize me.
I probably wouldn't. But here's why: there are hundreds of thousands of people who know me, and they
That's
know me
true.
because they've seen me and they've listened to me for 1,000 hours, and they're going to approach me like their best friend. And even if I had not had Asperger's, it's hard for me to go, okay, I've met tens of thousands of people, and I'm like, what database do I sort from for this person? Is it a fan or is it someone I've met a few times? That's hard, but I think that's hard for every celebrity I've talked to.
It's hard, but I'll tell
Yeah.
you something. It's interesting because I went at that at the that biohack thing that
Yeah.
we were at. We were both doing the red carpet, literally right beside each other.
Yeah.
You were here, I was here.
Yeah.
I had someone talking to me. You had someone talking to you. We were right here, and I looked at you. You looked at me, and you didn't say a word, and I didn't say a word. So I was like, "Fuck that," and I just walked away.
Oh,
Not because I thought you were rude, because I thought to
good.
myself, it's also so many things happening. I'm like, I recognized you because you're right. I see you all the time. Like you come up on my feed. I've interviewed you for like 20 minutes before somewhere
Yeah.
at your biohacking. Like you're much more familiar. I know for you to me, like maybe like someone said my name a couple times or whatever.
I recognize your name, and when I know it's you, I'm like, oh, great, I've got it.
But it wasn't, the context wasn't there.
And also, to be fair, if you're at a gala event,
Totally.
everybody's hair is done. You're wearing like 5 pounds of makeup and
I
a glamorous
agree.
dress. You don't look like yourself. I don't look like myself either. I'm just leather jacket or whatever. So
You-
people are
you-
wearing.
You looked exactly the
Yeah,
same,
well,
but I know
yeah.
that like when out of
Yeah.
context, you don't know somebody.
Yeah.
It's really hard. But I think I want to ask you something because I think
Yeah.
if anybody, you might have a good answer. My mom was sadly diagnosed with Alzheimer's maybe a month ago.
Gosh.
It's really horrible. And so someone like you, because you do all these things and talk to everybody and you retain everything. Have you heard of anything that helps people with Alzheimer's, not necessarily reverse it, but help maintain or let it not progress as quickly
I wrote a whole book
on Alzheimer's?
called Headstrong.
I didn't even know you had that book. When was that book written?
2016 or something.
Mm.
It is. It was on the New York Times bestseller list between Homo Deus and Sapiens, the monthly science book was, not the advice.
Oh, okay.
I hit that one as well. And most of the research on cognitive enhancement comes from Parkinson's Alzheimer's. So it goes very deep in it. I was the largest donor to Maria Shriver's Women's Alzheimer's movement.
You were?
Yeah. And that's because women get it twice as much as men. And my grandmother, who was at Los Alamos National Labs as a nuclear engineer PhD for most of her career, got Alzheimer's in her life. So, yeah, I care a lot about cognitive function. I'm also at high risk of it because I have toxic mold exposure and all these things like that. So, here's the short version. There's an amazing supplement that is called C8 MCT oil. You ever heard of it?
MCT oil? Yeah.
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 Well, in phase 2 clinical trials, MCT oil reverses Alzheimer's disease. When I was selling MCT oil, I wasn't allowed to say that because that would have been a medical claim. So I just got everyone to use it anyway and reduce the incidence of Alzheimer's across the country. Because guess what else does it? Coffee and MCT oil both are anti-Alzheimer's. I'm not joking. There's really good science for both of those. But you know what's an even better one? This is also making the rounds. Andrew Huberman just started talking about it. About 7 years ago or something, I had Dr. Nicotine from Vanderbilt University on the show. I call him that. His name is, I think, Andrew. I remember right? So you guys can look it up. Dave Asprey, Nicotine Podcast, Vanderbilt. And in 1986, he wrote the first paper showing that pharmaceutical nicotine, not smoking, prevents or reverses Alzheimer's disease. Nicotine is neuroprotective at low doses. In my longevity protocols, you use low-dose nicotine to keep the neurons happy and healthy and strong. Did you see me open that little container?
Yeah, I did.
That was nicotine. 3 milligrams of nicotine in a little choky that doesn't have artificial sweetener. So should you take a low dose, 7 milligram patch of nicotine and put it on your mom? Hell yeah. and then give her, I don't know, maybe some danger coffee with some MCT oil in it, or pour it in her Wheaties if that's what she'll eat. And watch the conversation you have a half hour later. She will come back. I would do this with my grandmother. I wouldn't do the nicotine, actually. I should have, but I didn't see her that much. But just with the MCTs, she would tell me about capturing neutron, no, not neutrons, capturing in wax, protons, I don't know, some kind of subatomic particle
Yeah.
under the bleachers in Chicago on the Manhattan Project when she would have her MCT. And when she didn't have MCT, she would watch infomercials. Totally different
Really?
brain. Yeah. So those would be nicotine, MCT, coffee. And then you've got to look at toxins, heavy metals, and toxic mold. These are in my book. I actually said these are causes, not the only causes, but some of the causes of Alzheimer's. And maybe 2 years later, Dr. Dale Bredesen comes on my show. Very well studied doctor, credentials, all the above. And he has a book called The End of Alzheimer's. And he says straight up, here's the evidence that toxic mold and toxic metals cause Alzheimer's. I'm like, hallelujah. Finally, a doctor's agreeing with this stuff because it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So you get your mom a test for these things. And then you do the protocols that restore mitochondria. And unless she's pretty far gone, of course you can reverse it. Dr. Dale Bredesen has reversed people over and over and over with his protocols. And yes, they involve things like what I just talked about. So you have to know why it happened, what it was. But Alzheimer's, unless it's very, very far advanced, it is reversible. You're just not going to get that information from your insurance company. That's not their business.
Right. And so the nicotine, could she take what you just did?
She could if she'll suck on a mint. You can get a spray, but you have to buy that outside the country and have it shipped in because the FDA hasn't approved the spray that's approved in every other country for 20 years. But the patch usually works because it's less of a jolt, and you just put it, ribs, arm, and then it just absorbs over 24 hours.
What type of patch would you recommend, though? Is there a particular one?
Nicorette usually make. No, not sorry. Nicorette's the spray.
Nicorette's I think it's the patch.
No, Nicorette is the little lozenges, stuff like that. And they
Oh.
always have bad sweetener. Nicorette's like the worst brand. You can get Lucy, Chew Lucy, I think it's called, but Lucy gum they have some of their flavors have no bad sweeteners. And I'm an investor and advisor. They were the first clean nicotine company. And this is a cognitive enhancing substance. Smoking's bad. Nicotine's different. So you could get some of that. They make mints or gum, and then there's a transdermal thing. I'm seeing the name of the label in my brain right now. It's like an orangish color that you stick on. Just go to the drugstore. Patches. Don't buy the generic ones. They suck. Buy
The name brand ones?
Yeah.
Okay, finish your. I know we're like, I don't know how long it's been, but I didn't even talk to you about MAHA, RFK,
Oh my
FDA.
Love all that stuff.
That's like that literally was what I was going to start this podcast with. And we haven't even gotten there. So that sucks because I really wanted to talk to you about all that stuff.
Wow. If we can just do a really brief thing there. I'm not a political person. I believe that if voting changed anything, they'd make it illegal.
Yeah, they should.
Well, I don't say that lightly. When I was 18, still being on the spectrum, I studied all of the ballot measures. I met all the people I was going to vote for. God, I get to vote. And I made the mistake of tracking results. I'm like, oh my God, everyone who I voted for who won did the opposite of what they promised to do. And the ballots are all garbage. I'm like, this is dumb. Like, why am I spending 100 hours on this like a good citizen? And then as a computer hacker, we know who hacked which elections how. And it's been happening probably since 1994.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the election with Kerry.
Oh, yeah.
There was a Rutgers statistics professor. He's like, isn't it weird? Every county that has the unsecured vote tallying machines you can access by dial-in modem, the way hackers like me do. In those counties, 90% of Democrats voted Republican. But in the county next door, strangely, most Democrats vote Democrat, like the rest of the country. And the odds of it being, statistically happening randomly are like 1 in a trillion years. This is clear evidence of election hacking that swung a presidential election. And what they did, they called the professor and asked him to shut up. And they asked Kerry after 6 weeks to stop contesting because it would destabilize the country and he just went for the team. By the way, I'm not partisan. I don't think it matters who's in charge. The government wants more power. They're going to get it one way or the other. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, if that's happening, why am I spending all my time on voting? So this is my political thing. I sat down. I've never donated any money to any political candidate. I maxed out my donation for RFK because he's not a politician. He's an attorney.
An environmental one.
And he's consistently behaved the same way. But I still was suspicious. And I had dinner sitting across from him for 2 hours. He's incredibly intelligent. His memory is better than mine. He remembers time better than I do, and people, places, time. And he talks about mitochondria. And if anyone on earth is going to enter that role with integrity, I think it's him. I could be wrong. But one-on-one interaction like that, there's, I would say this is my most exciting time I've ever been about anything politically, and already seeing the shocks through the pharmaceutical industry, the regulatory garbage that's been happening at the FDA for a long time to stop longevity from happening in the US. Why'd I have to go to Costa Rica to get stem cells that work? Why'd I have to go to Dubai? I like Dubai. I actually have a green card there. I love Dubai, but why'd I have to go there? Because American companies are fleeing? Like, he can fix all this stuff, and why do my kids have to eat food that they can't buy at the grocery store? And why do I have to protect their testosterone? All of this we can fix in a small period of time just by using science. Oh my God, like, please let RFK keep doing what he's doing. And he's got my full support, whatever he needs.
And did you go to the Maha Gala
It would have been a good idea to
in
go.
Washington?
I wasn't available. I was double booked. So
Oh, are you going to be involved in any of the government stuff, like to help with, I don't know, some, like they're giving people roles like all over the place.
I'm very interested in it, and I've had a few preliminary conversations. So if there's a good role for me, this is the only way I would ever consider entering government. And my goal here is I want our kids to be healthier and stronger. The first book was how do we have healthier pregnancies and babies that don't have autism. I want my kids to get what I had, and they didn't get it, even though the mother of my children was infertile.
Really? Did you, by the way, vaccinate your children even with, like, all those years back?
Let's see here. It seems like a personal question.
It does? Why? You seem to talk about all sorts of vaccinations and
It's we'll say their medical privacy is theirs, not mine. So they're teenagers, and they get to
okay.
decide what they disclose or don't disclose.
Okay, so are you a believer of vaccines now?
I have always been very concerned because this whole autism thing, and I've interviewed even back in the 90s. I started an autism nonprofit and donated a substantial amount of money to it for my time in the tech world. We know very well that autism in some kids with some genetics is associated with certain injections. It just is. And the people who say it isn't, well, you're going to bully people who have data you don't like. And I have sat down with guys like Andrew Wakefield, who's been, thoroughly discredited, except he hasn't been. He's just been thoroughly canceled. So I would just say that the case for modern vaccine schedules in the US is bullshit. Most of the world doesn't follow that, and we have worse health outcomes. And the data is very clear. Doesn't mean that all vaccines are necessarily bad. The one vaccine that I think is probably worthwhile is tetanus, not DPT, but just tetanus.
Mhm.
I did step on a rusty nail, and I did get actual tetanus that kills you, and I was within 12 hours of death. And thankfully, I was married to an emergency room doctor who knew what was going on and sent me to the hospital to get the antibodies I needed.
Your ex-wife was a doctor?
She was the emergency room doctor at
Oh.
the Karolinska Institute. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Very, very smart woman.
Wow. Okay.
So maybe that one. But would I give my kids HPV? I'm pretty sure my kids won't be sexually active by the time that thing wears off if you give it to a baby. It's dumb.
Well, they're trying to give it to you before the age of 15, HPV, the
Well,
Gardasil.
They're giving it to babies.
See, I was at the doctor yesterday with my 12-year-old, and the doctor offered it to my 12-year-old, and I said, no, thank you right now. But if you want it to be effective, you have to do it before the age of 15. That's what they said.
Yeah. There's a lot of marketing. Given what happened with the whole pandemic, at this point, I am far more hesitant to do anything like that. And you got to look at risk. I don't believe in vaccinating for things that don't kill you. Chickenpox Chickenpox is not a deadly disease.
No, I agree with that.
And we know how to turn off any lipid encapsulated virus, including chickenpox, herpes, smallpox, monkeypox, all of them.
How about polio?
Polio is a different animal, but just the pox things, you can take a synthetic oil antioxidant preservative called BHT, take 300 milligrams in a capsule twice a day. It'll dry up chickenpox in 3 days or any other pox. It'll stop shingles. It costs 10 cents. One of my mentors wrote the book on that. It's called something like Stop Herpes with BHT. So I'm not worried about chickenpox. It is not a fatal disease. We do not vaccinate for non-fatal things. It's dumb.
Right.
Right. So there's things like that. Polio, if you go deep, and at the beginning of the pandemic, I bought all of the print books on the history of vaccines and pandemics because the electronic ones would get changed. I've got a collection of it. What really happened with polio is they started spraying organophosphate pesticides that cause permeability in the spinal cord. So different viruses could get into the cerebral spinal fluid. And when that happened, you get polio-like symptoms from the vaccines. And the spread of polio absolutely traces the spread of where they started doing the chemicals. This is a chemical problem, not a viral problem. So do we need polio vaccines? No. How about we spray less chemicals? Let's build highly resilient humans. Turns out, measles, if you get measles or whooping cough, when you're supposed to get it, it confers lifelong immune benefits where you're less likely to get sick from respiratory diseases and other things. And there's great evidence for this. And measles is not deadly.
Measles, yeah.
It just isn't. There's all kinds of panic in there, but if you look at the hard data, very, very few kids die from measles, and kids who have basic nutrition, very, very hard. I'm not the only one saying this. There's entire reams of books written about this. People don't know about them.
Right. And people are also, they're scared and they get fear mongering, right? People get scared. And so they do something to be preventative.
You know what is more scary than getting a disease that has a tiny percentage chance of killing you? Having a lifelong life of chronic illness. And as a guy who had all the chronic illnesses in my 20s, I'm like, fuck that. Like, you're going to try and force me to do something that's going to increase my risk of that, even though I know I already have an increased risk, like over my dead body. And in the world that I live in, if one group or person has a right to force things into your body against your better judgment, they are granting you the right to do it to them. And I don't think we want a world where high-speed lead vaccinations are flying back and forth, but bodily autonomy should have been in the Constitution, is a fundamental God-given right. No agency, no elected official, no insurance company, no doctor, no daddy, no employer, nobody has that right but you for your body.
Right. The first step is, of course, they eliminated the red dye. What's next?
Glyphosate. It looks like he's going to go after glyphosate. And it's funny because the EPA may or may not go after glyphosate, but all the HHS has to do is say, here are the allowable levels of glyphosate contamination in food. And when you spray glyphosate on wheat at the end of the crop, right before humans are going to eat it, if you do that, it no longer becomes sellable. They'll stop doing it. And that will change the health of the country so quickly. And if we say, if there's atrazine in the water, it's not allowable. And the big question now is between what is FDA and what is EPA and what is USDA. So there's going to be some balancing there. But I think the guy who has control over what's allowed in food, ultimately, that's at the top of the food chain, right? Because the other people can say, well, it's allowed. Like, it's allowed, but if it's in the food, it's not allowed anymore. So go RFK. And I'm happy to build programs that help kids be healthier. There's so much we can do to have kids who don't need ADHD medications because we fed them well at school. Like, how cheap is it to put butter, which kids need, and I can tell you exactly why they need it, instead of canola oil in their food? If we just did that, what would happen? Magic. So I'm all in on that. This is a chance to rebuild society so people are more energized. And I know from all of the work I've done, all the books I've written, everything, when we are at our full power, we are wired to be kind to each other. And if we're malnourished and we're exhausted and tired and afraid, we're jerks. We're programmable. All my work, biohacking, if you're a biohacker, you program yourself, nobody else. So we're building highly resilient, unprogrammable humans who choose to do the right thing because they want to.
Wow. I love that answer. And then just wrap it up with very quickly, your daily routine. We got the night routine kind of. Just go really quickly in 1 minute or
Sure.
less. What do you do every day? You wake up at what time? You said 6.5 hours. You
I
sleep.
wake up around 6:30, 7, go outside for 20 minutes, get some sunlight in my eyes. If I don't go into Upgrade Labs, I will do a cold plunge. I may also do either an infrared sauna or have a hot tub. Um, the government has decided you're not allowed to have a hot tub that's above 104 degrees. That's not hot enough to do anything. So I hacked my hot tub to go to 106 degrees. So it takes me 12 minutes to raise my body temperature to 104. So I get heat shock proteins, and then I get in the cold plunge again. So I'll do hot cold contrast.
But you like the infrared because now there's all
Mhm.
this data saying that it's not hot enough. That you need to have like a finish, like a old school.
Well, we don't have data saying the infrared saunas don't work for the stuff from the Finnish studies. We just know the Finnish studies use those. What infrared saunas do is they cause about 95% more toxins to come out of your skin than just a hot sauna. So my preference is to have a really hot sauna or a really hot tub and an infrared sauna, and to do each of them some of the time
Yep.
with some cold therapy. And I'll do that. I have all the biohacking toys from Upgrade Labs in my house. So I set
Of
aside
course.
about an hour and a half, and I will do a combination of things to improve my biology that day. I do not do the same thing every day, except I will have my Danger coffee in the morning, along with a glass of salt water with some creatine in it and some other electrolytes. And I don't drink water without salt in it ever, and it's absolutely changing my life. I do 8 grams of sodium or more per day, and it is life changing. The idea that lowering salt is good for humans is completely a lie. And I don't just say that lightly. I'm quoting Michael Alderman, the former president of the American Hypertension Society, a medical doctor who studied sodium output in urine of 3,000 people for several years. All the data we have on salt intake is from how much salt did you think you had? Like, it's nonsense data. So he looked at the real data into the study, direct quote from a medical professional who really did the work. If you want to live longer, eat more salt.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to.
I do that in the morning.
Okay. So you just put regular Himalayan salt in there.
Himalayan salt, or I'll use something like an Elementi. I make a blend of electrolytes, but magnesium, potassium, sodium. I'll do creatine. I'll also do 2 ounces of lemon juice.
I'm a big creatine person as well.
It's important.
Most
But
studied.
it may hurt your sleep,
supplement.
though.
Really?
Yeah. For some people, it just cranks your energy up enough. And if you don't have the ability to metabolize it, you need to take either collagen or glycine or certain types of folate in order to get the full benefits. When I cranked my creatine up to 10 grams a day, why did I wake up at 5 in the morning and not want to go back to sleep? That's weird. And that's what it was. I'd had
Wow.
3 grams of glycine.
Well, 10 grams, that's a lot. I take 2.5.
Oh, that's not enough. You need at least 5, unless
Well-
you're eating a lot of red meat.
Well, because I'm scared of the bloating.
Well, if it happens and you bloat, then stop. But you
I
won't
know. I
bloat.
know. I mean, that's true, right? I mean, that's 100% true. Exactly. Okay. So then you do all these little, you change
Yeah.
around all your little things.
Handful of smart drugs.
What are the supplements that you swear by besides ones you say at night? You
I
say
do-
creatine?
I do 150 supplements a day, and I have for 20 years, like handfuls of them.
A day.
Yeah.
Okay. So you take the creatine, you told me
Yeah.
that, magnesium,
yeah,
blah, 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 blah,
A
blah.
huge number of cognitive enhancers, adaptogenic herbs. I'm manipulating my cortisol, adrenaline, and catecholamine levels. Tyrosine's important. I take recently, last couple times, like BPC 157 to
Mhm.
help my face recover.
It
Bunch
worked.
of different minerals. It did. Huge number of mitochondrial enhancers. I'm taking C15. I just did a second podcast with the inventor of that stuff. It's amazing science. Have you talked to her, Stephanie Van Watson? I think she might get a Nobel Prize.
Really?
She discovered the first new essential fatty acid in 90 years that we didn't know about.
I should write her name down.
Yeah, it's very interesting. She runs Fatty 15.
Oh, Fatty 15.
Mhm.
Yeah. I
She's-
know who they are.
She's a really good guest, and you talk to her, she's like, some dolphins get old, some don't. I'm an epidemiologist for dolphins. Why? And
I-
just one why, and 10 years later, and now
Right.
there's 100 studies backing up what she said. It's incredible.
Yeah, I know
I
them.
take that stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of the longevity supplements that are in the world that you've heard about, they launch or they come on my show really early because I'm into this stuff. So I take urolithin A, the
Yeah,
timeline stuff.
Mm-hmm.
help them get big. I take spermidine. I take calcium AKG. Have for many, many years. Wrote about it in all my books. By the way, all this is in Superhuman, my longevity book.
Yeah. By the way, I did read that book. It's over there. I
Nice.
read that
Oh,
book
thank
like
you.
100 years ago. I don't
Yeah.
remember it though. I don't retain information like you do, apparently. I'm doing something wrong. That was a good
Well,
book. That was I think
thank
that was
you.
the book I really liked, Superhuman.
It cracked the code on longevity. Just say there's a
Yeah,
real
it's
case
really
for it.
good.
Here's how you do it. And the framework for that book, if you read most of the modern longevity books, it's the same thing. Here's the 4 things that are going to kill you. And it's funny, like Peter Attia came on my show
hmm
before he had a podcast, and you read his book. He's like, "Oh, you can't extend human life," which is a funny thing for a doctor to say. But he says that, and he's like, "But here's the 4 killers." I'm like, "I love your framework, Peter." And
Yeah.
and so, yeah, that idea that stop the bad things, and then what are the 7 to 9 pillars of aging? And you go through, and I have supplements for each one of those things that are, okay, what do I do for my telomeres? What do I do for my mitochondria? What do I do for extracellular stiffening? What do I do for toxin removal? And I think toxin removal is underappreciated in longevity.
Okay, why? How do we do that though?
If you look at my most recent book, I have a chapter on that, but the supplement that's probably, that's probably most underappreciated is calcium D. So glutathione, since the beginning of the biohacking movement, I put that out there. The first liposomal glutathione on the planet was from my doctor in my 20s. I helped him launch it. So glutathione, hell yeah, that's number 1. Number 2 would be calcium D-glucarate, and then you need toxin binders like activated charcoal away from supplements or away from medications.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a million more questions, but
We
I'll
got to
leave you
wind it
alone.
up because I
No,
got to get to
listen,
my next podcast.
I understand. Trust me. Okay, Dave Asprey, you're like a plethora of knowledge. There was like
Thanks, Jen.
77 more things I can talk about. I'm going to break this up into 2 parts because I don't
Okay.
even know how long
We
this.
went long, yeah.
How long was this podcast?
2 hours.
Oh,
Wow. It doesn't feel like that much time.
I don't think it was. I don't feel. I really could have done another 2 hours with you.
Jen, thank you for all the cool questions. I just love sharing this stuff. I start all these companies. I think it's a sickness. But if I can't buy something that should exist in the world, I feel like I have to make it. And then I just tell people about it. And just thanks for your curiosity and listening and
I'm
asking
so
questions. It's
curious.
fun.
I love it. And I think that you were just like I said, you gave what I love guests like you who give people actionable things that they can actually do
Yeah.
in their life. I mean, some of the stuff is like things I didn't even ask you today about some of the other kooky stuff that like like the plasma and all those
Yeah,
things.
I've done that as well.
I know
Yeah.
you've done everything, but you've kind of like gave people so much information and things that they can easily integrate that
Yeah.
doesn't take much. So thank you.
Here's the most important thing. Of all of the biohacking things I've done, if you can just remove triggers from your nervous system, everything in your life is so much easier, including taking your supplements or anything. So if you pre-order Heavily Meditated, the reset process in that book is the most precious thing I've ever developed.
And I will say your books are always ahead of its time. Like you keep on like referring to these things. Like I wrote, like when I ask you a question, you're like, oh yeah, I wrote about that in 2016, like 10 years ago.
I hope
You know
I
what
don't
I
sound
mean?
arrogant. I'm just like pointing people. It's like a hyperlink to know where to go to find all of the concentrated stuff.
Because people are like in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, and they don't remember that, like, even all these new biohacking conferences, you did it before anybody else did it. And like, even
It's a question of, am I doing it best now is all that matters. Coming
right.
first is not relevant. Is it epic now? And I stand by my epicness at that conference. I love the biohacking conference.
You have, but I will say I've been to a bazillion of them. You do have like the best one. You really actually do.
My team is so good. They care so much.
You do a great job at that conference. And I want to, one more, the Dalai Lama. You didn't tell me about the Dalai Lama.
Yeah, I'm taking a small private group to Dharamsala, and we're spending a week doing consciousness and biohacking and longevity medicine. The doctor I've partnered with. We're teaching people to live forever, doing the stuff that you don't really talk about, and getting time with His Holiness. And just like if you really are into this, you want to live a very long time. You're not afraid of dying, and you want to be highly conscious, and you want to help as many people as you can. So,
Jesus.
small group of people. That's what.
All right.
Like a dozen.
A dozen. How much does it cost?
If you have to ask, it's
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. Thank you for being on the show. Bye, everybody.